Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new Q&A. We finished up the Gul'dan series, and man, did I misjudge how much time that character was going to take. I was like, we'll quickly go through the events of the 3 characters, maybe 1 or 2 videos. But nope, 3 big ass videos, which was great fun, don't get me wrong. I just didn't plan on taking it so much time. For those that missed it, last week I took a little holiday and I went over to visit the Fat Boss Boys, as well as join the very first PreachCon, and I had the time of my life. It was great meeting up with old friends again, meeting Preacher, Ghosty and their family, the crew working behind the scenes, all the fans. It was like a mini BlizzCon, right? It was truly a lot of fun. You might hear it from my voice, I got a mild case of the con flu, but definitely worth it. If we're supposed to believe the rumors on the internet, then the Legion pre-patch should launch rather quickly. The speculated date that people are going with is July 19th, and if you still need to start either the Legendary Quest Chain, or you need to get like the Brawlers Guild bosses, the Warlords Challenge mode, or ahead of the curve and cutting edge the Black Gates, make sure to do it quickly, because they will be removed with the pre-patch. On August 30th, with the release of Legion, they'll also remove the heirloom trinkets from Mythic Dungeon bosses, the Moose Mount from Archimond, completing the Legendary Questline will no longer be available, and the drop rates for the Mythic Boss Mounts Ironhoof Destroyed and Felsteel Annihilator will be nerfed to 1%. I'll link to the Wowhead post in the description if you want more details on what to do before the Legion pre-patch hits. Now the final bit of news is that a trailer was released for Legion Harbingers. Those that remember Lords of War for Warlords of Draenor, this is pretty much going to be the same style, except this time the story is of course going to be for Legion. Link to the trailer can also be found in the description, and without going into spoilers, I can't wait for this to release. The preview looks freaking amazing. I think it's going to be about Khadgar and Gul'dan and Illidan and the Demon Hunters. It looks freaking awesome. I cannot wait. Right, that's a much larger introduction than I usually do for the Q&As, but I thought it would be handy to share all this information. With that out of the way, let's dive into the questions. Starting with, hey Noble, I want to know more about the lore of the Tuskarr and their race. Love your work, hi from Sweden, from Victor Forsell. The Tuskarr, or Kaluak in their own language, are a race of walrus-like creatures, first shown up in World of Warcraft during Wrath of the Lich King, but they were already part of the game from Warcraft RPG and Warcraft 3. Their origin is unknown, but Bran Bronzebeard speculates that they come from some sort of walrus wild god, but that's just speculation. They're a peaceful race, with their society centered around fishing and whaling, but they also breed penguins as farm animals, and they are known to take down a squid or 2. Fishing is of such a vital importance that a Tuskarr's ability to fish, it actually affects its social standing within the community. Though they prefer to live peaceful, the Tuskarr fiercely defends their settlements when necessary against threats like the Kavaldir or the Gorlok. They're no strangers to conflict either. Considering that we met them in Northrend during that time the Lich King was still active, you can imagine that they're definitely a sturdy race. Both factions, the Alliance and the Horde, and other people, they could interact and work together with the Tuskarr, yet some didn't have the best intention in mind. Some wanted to capture and sell the Tuskarr as slaves, but taking them away from the cold climate, it resulted in them dying after a few days. This information is taken from a quest called The Jig Is Up, but it seems like Annie, the quest NPC, that she was actually wrong and that climate had nothing to do with the Tuskarr dying, since later they would show up on the Darkmoon Islands and even on Pandaria. Trawler Yotimo says, "Call me crazy, but I love this warm weather. I always felt like an outcast back in Borean, but I think this new climate is going to work out great for me." What are you doing so far from home? Well, times were getting tough up north. Well, the scourge problem has been dealt with. We are constantly on the move and looking for food. I decided it was time to head out and find some new fishing grounds. After almost a week at sea, I ended up here. Good thing I packed a few crates of pickled herring for the trip. The Tuskarr are not only used for Warcraft and World of Warcraft, they were also added to Hearthstone with the Grand Tournament set. We got cards like the Refreshment Vendor,
Funnel cakes! Get your funnel cakes here!
A Tuskarr totemic showing their connection to shamanism, but not really being picky about their totems.
Did you bring some fish? Job done.
And the Tuskarr Jouster, which just couldn't be talked out of using his turtle for the joust.
Is this the fishing tournament?
This links back to the giant turtle boats that they use for transportation, leading them with a carrot on a fishing line. And that's my general overview of the Tuskarr race. Next question. What can be the story of the next Warcraft movie? Will it be Thrall? I believe there will be a sequel, but I can't wait for the Illidan Arthur story made into a movie. Sent in by Tuff. Now a heads up, for those that haven't seen a Warcraft movie yet, I will be speculating about a possible future movie. So be warned, spoilers ahead. I'll add an annotation on screen so you can click ahead to the next question so you don't have to hear the spoilers. Now say that we are going to get a sequel to the Warcraft movie, then I hope that we'll get a continuation upon the story built in the first one. The first one leaves us with Orgrim Doomhammer turning his back on the Horde. Durotan, Draka and most of the Frostwolf clan are dead. Not all of them, most of them. And baby Thrall is found by Blackmoor. Garona is a hero amongst the orcs since she killed the King of Stormwind. And someone left a comment about the audio version of the movie novelization. The audio version actually stated that Garona is the war chief. My paper copy of the book left out that minor detail, but it does make sense. Now on the human side, we have a dead Guardian Medivh, we have a dead King Lane, but Lothar and Khadgar, they're still alive and the alliance is already formed. The way that they could take the story is in a million directions, right? But let's assume that they're going to keep it as close to the original as possible. In that case, the already formed alliance, it needs to get their asses kicked by the Horde and Stormwind has to fall in order for them to travel to Lordaeron. There, the kingness of the alliance, they could regroup, they add the strength of the wild hammer dwarves to it, as well as more of the high elves from Quel'Thalas. This will also give the opportunity to introduce characters like Illyria and Trellian, and then of course, the creation of the paladins of the Silver Hand. That could all fall in nicely in line, but on the Horde side, it's a little bit more tricky. Gul'dan, as far as we know, did not go into the mind of Medivh to find out where to get more power, and in turn find out about the tomb of Sargeras. You could fix that by saying that Medivh simply told him while he was still alive, but it's tricky considering that the name Sargeras has not even been mentioned. The creation of the Death Knights in the main universe was in order to prove to Orgrim that Gul'dan could still be useful, but now he's pretty much still in charge, so he could simply decide for himself to create the Death Knights because he feels like it. Garona, as the war chief, takes on the role of Doomhammer in the main universe. She tries to lead the Horde to a more honorable path away from Gul'dan, while still trying to conquer Azeroth for the Horde. So the story can simply follow the main universe arc, as in Stormwind falls, they go to Lordaeron, the trolls join the Horde, they attack Quel'Thalas until the point comes to the siege of Lordaeron. This is a critical point in the war, since the reason why the Horde gave up on the siege and pretty much lost the war in the main universe, it was because of Gul'dan betraying them. He was able to convince Doomhammer to let him stay behind, right? He took the opportunity and he traveled to the tomb of Sargeras. This caused Doomhammer to send more of his troops after Gul'dan. They lost the siege at Lordaeron, they were pushed back all the way to Blackrock Mountain. Considering that in the movie, Gul'dan still has a powerful role in the Horde, why would he betray them? Well, perhaps Garona is able to convince all of them that Gul'dan is not the way. She's able to turn the full might of the Horde against him, pissing him off and having him scheme his way to the tomb to gather more power and reclaim his Horde. Garona naturally can't allow this. She sends troops away during the siege, and now she's the one pushed back to the mountain. There, the final confrontation between Doomhammer and Lothar took place in the main universe, but considering that Lothar believes that Garona betrayed them all, this could be a great point for some drama. Just imagine these former lovers fighting with each other, Lothar accusing her of being a murderer, and she tries to convince him that she had no other choice. Lothar's consumed by grief over his king, over his son, his fellow countrymen, and he does not listen. He keeps on with the attack, forcing Garona to defend herself, and in that way, she slays Lothar. This kicks Trellian and the Alliance into overdrive, right? They knock out Garona and they defeat the Horde. Another path that they could take is Garona actually surrendering, but the rest of the Horde, they seize it as a weakness in the War Chief and they still keep on fighting. The third option that they could possibly go with is actually creating a peace between the Alliance and the Horde. However, that would create some problems for Thrall's story arc. If there is a peace, then there wouldn't really be internment camps, there would be no Thrall as a slave gladiator, and no plans from Blackmoor. So that's how I would see the second movie go down, leading into the internment camps, and then the third one could all be about Thrall's story arc, liberating his people and reforming the Horde. I know a lot of people would love to see the Lich King story on the big screen, or maybe even Illidan's story on the big screen. I'd love that too, but I would also like them to give a nice conclusion to the story arc that they built up so far. Next question by Pallas123. Hi there, Noble. Could you tell us how it is with demons and timelines? Alternate Draenor is at a completely different time than our Azeroth, and yet we fight there with our Archimonde. He then sends Gul'dan through a portal to our timeline. So how is that? Demons can move freely throughout time and it doesn't matter for them, at least for those more powerful, at which timeline we are currently. I really wish that I had a clear answer for this, but even after months of them adding this to the lore, it's still pretty vague as to how it all works. Let's start at the beginning for those that hear about this for the first time. With the expansion World of Draenor, we were introduced to a connection between different realities. Before this moment, we knew that alternate realities existed. For example, in the novel Twilight of the Aspects, we have Thrall that travels to a reality where he himself had died while still being a baby. So the concept of alternate realities that has already been part of the lore since quite some time. Time travel with the Bronze Dragonflight has also been a thing since nearly the first moments of the lore. For example, in the War of the Ancients, we read about Cressus, Ronan and Broxigar. They're sent back in time by Nosdormu. Now Warlords of Draenor decided to combine both. Garrosh was sent back in time around 35 years by Kairos Dormu, but not just back in time to an alternate reality. They then connected that alternate reality through the Dark Portal, turning it red, and they established a link between our Azeroth in the present timeline and alternate Draenor set around 35 years in the past from our point of view. Are you feeling the headache already? Just wait, because there's more. On top of time travel, on top of having multiple realities, they also added that the Twisting Nether transcends all realities. This means that the Burning Legion has access to all realities, which raises a lot of questions. Do we have one Burning Legion, or do we have multiple? Are there millions of Archimondes out there, or just one? If they transcend realities, do they also transcend time? Is the Archimonde that we fought with on alternate Draenor the same Archimonde we dealt with during the War of the Ancients and the Battle at Mount Hyjal? It's uncertain. There was some developer talk in which they said that Archimonde learned a few tricks since the Battle of Mount Hyjal, and he seems to be aware of our Azeroth, since that's where they sent Gul'dan at the end of Warlords of Draenor. Going from that, I'd say that there's one Archimonde. The Archimonde that we faced at the end of Warlords of Draenor, it's the same Archimonde from our reality. The problem with that is that we have at least two different Vellans. We have Velen from our reality, and we have Velen from alternate Draenor, who sacrificed himself. Considering that the origin story of the Draenei seems to follow the same line as the main universe, we could be pretty certain that at some point there were two Archimondes and two Kil'jaedins. Does that mean that once you join the Legion within the Twisting Nether, all your counterparts merge into one? If we go with the multiverse theory of all possibilities are reality, does that mean that at least one version of Velen decided to join the Legion? And if so, why haven't we seen this corrupted Velen yet? In short, combining multiverse with time travel is headache-inducing enough. Adding to it that the Twisting Nether transcends all realities, it just causes a whole bunch of complications and questions, and sadly, I don't have a clear answer. Next up, by Owain Laurent. Hey Noble, where can I ask you questions? I don't know exactly where, so I'll post mine here. Perfect place, mate. Who exactly is Shandris Feathermoon, and what happened in that place that's called the Ruins of Feathermoon? Shandris is one of those characters that deserves a full story, a full video dedicated to it, but I'll do a summarized version here. Her story begins all the way back during the War of the Ancients, where the Legion tried to conquer Azeroth and a Knight of Resistance was formed. She was orphaned because of this war, but she found a way to Tyrande Whisperwind and wouldn't leave her side. She was amazed by Tyrande's skill as a priestess, amazed how she was able to heal and bless the people, so much so that she started to imitate her. A war is no place for a child though, so when the battle came close, Tyrande told Shandris to stay behind. Not willing to lose another loved one, Shandris kept a close eye on Tyrande, even showing up to save the day and allow Malfurion to defeat Xavius, as he and the Xavius and the Satyrs, they tried to kidnap Tyrande. Even though Malfurion was able to turn Xavius into a tree, Tyrande was still taken away by the other Satyrs to the palace, and she spent her time there as their prisoner. Elune watched over her favorite though, and eventually she reunited with Shandris and the others. She adopted her as her own daughter at the end of the war. Over the years, Shandris would prove to be an excellent ranger, eventually becoming the general of the Night Elf Sentinels. She fought in the War of the Satyrs, she played a part during Warcraft 3, and in World of Warcraft, she could be found within Feathermoon Stronghold, located on Sardor Isle in Featherless. The reason why it's now called the Ruins of Feathermoon is because with the Cataclysm, the area was flooded by tidal waves, and Naga took the opportunity to attack. This forced Shandris and her troops to abandon it and rebuild a whole new Feathermoon stronghold. Now the events of this are described in the free short story called Seed of Faith, in which Shandris nearly died, but the prayers of Tyrande to Elune, it brought back her daughter and allowed her to stay within the story. So that's what happened in that place. Now besides the events in-game, besides dealing with the ogres and the Naga in that area, we also see her pop up in different novels, like in Storm Rage, where she assisted with the defense of Darnassus against the Nightmare, and she was the witness for Tyrande and Malfurion's wedding. In the novel Wolfheart, she joined Tyrande in fighting the Horde at Ashenvale, while also hinting at her romantic feelings toward Jared's Shadow Song. This romance, these feelings, go back all the way again to the War of the Ancients, where Shandris was very interested in Jared, but he left his people behind to live out his days with his wife Shalazir instead of leading his people. With the Night Elf's immortality taken away, Shalazir fell ill, she was dying, and she asked Jared to bring her back to their people. He believed that there might be a way to save his beloved, but she already understood that her time had passed, and she simply didn't want Jared to be alone. Shandris and Jared, they meet up, she passed on her sympathy for his wife dying, and he apologized for disappearing like that. At the end of the tale, Tyrande tries to move the wheels of fate, a little bit, by having Jared and Shandris work together, and who knows, perhaps that romance, that's now building up for 10,000 years, will one day get a chance to shine. Now I know that this is a very short summary of such a huge character like Shandris, but in the future I'll make a video about her adventures, we'll go into greater details, as well as talk about her role during Tides of War and the upcoming expansion Legion. That is for the future. And with that, we've reached the final question for this Q&A, which might be fun for all of us to answer. What one event in World of Warcraft contributed a great deal to your love and devotion to the game? How long ago was it? Does it still make you smile? Any screenshots? By Claire the Sunshield or Claire. Claire, when I think back as to what made me fall in love with the game, what made me really invested in it, I don't really have a clear moment. For the lore, it's very easy, right? For the lore, it was the moment that I saw the Wrathgate cinematic during Wrath of the Lich King, and from that point on, I was hooked to finding out what was going on, who are these characters, what's the story behind all of this. I was hooked, I was browsing Wowpedia, WoWWiki, all of that good stuff. The Wrathgate was a clear moment for me, but I've been playing since Classic, so what got me hooked on the game? I don't think that there was one single moment that really stood out for me. Honestly, when I first got into the game, I was quite bored with it rather quickly. I played for like 30 minutes on the first go, and I was like, well, this is boring, let's go do something else. Yet something in the back of my mind kept me going. Next time I logged in, it was for an hour, next time was 2 hours, slowly but surely the game pulled me in. I started chatting with people, I started making in-game friends, I joined a guild, I explored the game, and before I knew it, I was playing 24/7. No joke, for the first time, the first year that I played World of Warcraft, I was heavily addicted. I think the moment where I started playing towards a bigger goal, like where my real love and devotion to the game came from, was the moment where I saw a warlock friend in the guild in a location called Molten Core. I had never seen this area pop up before, so I asked him, what's a Molten Core? How do you get there? Can I come? And he explained to me that it was a raid, that you needed specific gear, you needed a team, and that gave me something to work towards. I started farming the stuff that they told me to get. I worked on the attunement quest, I worked on the water quest, having that goal to work towards and having the people to play with, to chat with in the late hours, that's what really got me into the game. It's funny that my reason for playing the game has sort of evolved over the years. First, I found the game really boring, I became more interested in it, things were shiny and new, and that's what got me hooked, right? I began the raiding, I found out about Molten Core, we did Blackening Lair, all that good stuff. The people I played with, they became a big part of it, achievement hunting became a big part of it, and now my main reason for playing the game is reaching the next chapter in the storyline. I might not always agree with the direction that they take the story in, but I'm always interested in where the story is going to go next. So my question to you, the way that I'm going to end this Q&A, I'm going to pass on this question to you guys and girls. Let me know in the comments below, what was one event or multiple events in World of Warcraft that contributed a great deal to your love and devotion to the game? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for sending in your questions. If you have more, leave them in a comment down below, and who knows, your question might be used for the next Q&A. Apologies if I sound a little bit sick, apologies if it's a little bit cut up. This voiceover, I got one mailman, I got like 5 planes, I got a couple of sneezes in. I hope it sounds alright. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!